A pre-launch event took place on Saturday the 8th of March 2025 during International Women's Day at the Green Room of the Holiday Club in the Panchsheel Enclave, Delhi, India. Its purpose was to establish the Non-Residence Indian Global Limited UK, which aims to help NRIs to initiate activities within India and share its wisdom and experience with the world. During the meeting, an organizational structure was discussed and a conference is planned based on the theme of non-violent economy. This will take place on Mahatma Gandhi's birthday on October 2nd, 2025 in India, at Gujarat's Gift City, as a first step towards the implementation of the project.
Firstly, I'd like to welcome everyone bringing yourselves here on this important day, International Women's Day, because I am aware we could have done this tomorrow or yesterday, so that possibly more people would have been available. But what's important is this is a pre-event for what I'm proposing. I have discussed it to when I was a young man, and our family doctor was sadly passed last year at 85, but was with us from my youth, was from the south of India, and my heritage goes back 2,300 years, where Alexander the Great came to India and established a link here. After he left, there were Bactrians who stayed and started an empire called the Greco-Hindu Empire. And so it was a very interesting time where Greek-speaking 12 gods, together with Sanskrit-speaking multiple gods, and Pali-speaking no god, and then we had Zarathustra with Zoroastrians. So 4 civilizations melded to create a very powerful union over a 400-year period. And as a result of that, the Greeks brought Buddhism and the principles of Hinduism, Sanatan Dharma, to the West. And that laid the foundation of the spiritual principles, because the Romans were very physical, not so metaphysical. But the Greeks are very metaphysical. And that is known by everybody. So they called them philosophers. And I looked at that and said, to be a friend of wisdom is good. That's what philosophy means. But to put it into practice is more significant. And that's praxosophy. And that is the purpose of why we're here today. India has at least a 6,000-year written history. This is very important to remember. I am not here to discuss anything politically. It is about economy. Economy means laws of living. It's a Greek word. It doesn't mean money and finance. That's a part of the economy. Finance is different, and commerce, which is from the Latin, is where the exchange of goods for some token representation is what commerce is about. A merchant is someone who buys. Commerce is the process of exchanging goods. Our current world situation in 2025 has become a race toward geopolitical and socio-economic supremacy globally. G7, which was originally established in 1975, is at the forefront of this movement led by the US, whose actions are driven by pressure, coercion, manipulation, and personal agendas. So they generally go to countries, they do a homework, and they have secret services act on their behalf to do the homework. Basically FBI, CIA, and Homeland Security. And what's behind it is the machine that produces everything from pharmaceuticals to weapons to fast foods and you name it. And they basically come in with an offer. Now, this morning I heard on Vantage, which is an Indian program, where Donald Trump was discussing about offers being made. He's got Elon Musk there, actually as an advisor now. And a lot of the Democrats aren't happy with it because he wasn't elected. He's a billionaire. He's very clever with what he has achieved, but he's not an elected member of parliament. But it's basically the department of getting the goods back into order, government order, because too much has been spent without there being accountability. Accountability in this case means enough members of the parliament making, or in that case, it's the Senate, making the decisions and agreeing. And that's not what always happens, unfortunately. So, let's look at here. None of the approaches from G7 countries are performed with the collective consent or agreement of the populations of other nations. This is a violation of human rights, which is a Declaration of Human Rights adopted by the UN 10th of December 1948, and therefore a violent approach to economics, the laws of living. Let's just consider this, gentlemen. I'm approaching it from a very simple, common sense perspective. This is not being political. We're talking about economics. We propose to establish a non-violent economic initiative based on openness, fairness, transparency, accountability, which leads to a self-generating, self-sustaining, and self-managing socio-political structure for every nation globally. And this is a proposal. We're here, and I'm here to take everyone's opinion on this. This is what I see and what I understand. My background is not an economist, but I do know the laws of living very, very well. Based on medicine, science, and education. These are my backgrounds, and the welfare of all people to have within them a sane state of being so that they can manage their daily life with their families, with their work, and most important of all, with themselves. Why India? 6,000 years of spiritual heritage. They've gained independence from the British colonial rule on the 15th of August 47 through the actions of Mahatma Gandhi without using aggression and violence. It's the largest democracy on the planet. It has huge diversity of religions. There are hundreds of languages, and they are all working together in harmony with unity in diversity. People aren't pushing each other around or ordering from a top level down, a level of hierarchy which is not accepted or tolerated or necessarily the opinion of the majority of the people, the masses. So India has pulled themselves out of poverty during the last 70 years through collaborative efforts of the entire population with all local and national government representatives. There were not factions that said, we're not listening to you. We invite NRIs from various industries such as e-commerce, cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence, communication, law, science, health sciences, community development, youth leadership, to collaborate and become non-violent economy ambassadors that create a positive impact together. Because there are many NRIs, around 30 million globally. And I know many of them have supported India over the last 40 to 50 years, in any case from abroad. But where India is today, we have a situation where there's G7, and we know how powerful they are in their presence, and most of it has to do with pharmaceutical and military presence, basically. And a medical system that isn't actually a medical system, and my dear colleague agrees with me on that. It is an accident and emergency system. So if you think it's there to take care of your health, it wasn't designed for that. So when you get upset and say, I've been to the doctor, I've gone through all the tests, I've had all the scans, they gave me all the medications, and after 5 years, 10 years or whatever, I'm still unwell. Well, they're meant to save your life. They're not meant to actually make you well. That's in the statute of the British Medical Association, American Medical Association. I'm a medical practitioner. I know what the statute's there for. That particular system is not Ayurveda. It's not a holistic approach, which you have in the Chinese and in the Mongolian, the Tibetan, and those traditional medicines. Neither is it complementary or alternative. It's accident and emergency. So we need to understand the approach. So we have military, we have petrochemical industry, we have pharmaceutical industry, we have fast foods, and then they've discovered a way of counteracting that with all of the gyms and the health clubs, which I think is very clever. So all of it makes lots of money from a country that basically has created brand awareness. So I said, with respect to Dr. Pandav yesterday, What is the currency of the United States of America?
Dollar.
A dollar. In Latin, dolor means pain.
Wow.
So you work painfully for this currency that is an S. Why are they using an S? Has anyone ever asked that question?
That's a very interesting question. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a snake.
It is serpent slavery.
Serpent.
Okay?
Oh.
It is very clever. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we can think about a possible solution. Because I am not focusing, gentlemen, at all on the problem. I'm only focusing on what can we do to shift things into a better place. There's G7, and if it were not for BRICS, we'd have nothing but G7. And we have had nothing but G7 for about 50 years, since the end of the Second World War, 60 years. So BRICS was formed around 15 years ago, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now there are, I think, 11 in total. Indonesia just joined in January this year. There are about 40 other countries waiting in the list. And I believe secretly, not so secret anymore, Germany's one of them. So the G7, who are they? At the moment, United States, Canada, in the North Americas. We have France, Italy, Germany in the UK, in Europe, and Japan in Asia. Collectively, they do what it is that we're experiencing, and they basically have put a lead forward. They set the precedent, in other words. And the rest of the world is trying to do what they do to meet that particular standard and reference. So that's the reference we have. So economics is about the laws of living, which includes education, food, agriculture, health, and the welfare of the people. Laws are relative to who makes them. But all of what I just told you are based on one particular law. It's natural law. And Vedanta is about natural law. So we need to go back to that which actually creates everything, naturally, and see why somehow we've gone off the mark, we're not following natural law anymore. And the laws that we make should be in alignment with that, which will then give us a lot more focus, attention, awareness, and clarity. Because when we do things that make no sense, every cell in our body knows that, and it reacts. And you're there doing something that you know doesn't make sense for you. It's causing you discomfort or even pain. And that is one of the major contributors to mental health today. We have 5 physical contributors. Heavy metals in the air, which cause all sorts of problems by resonating with electromagnetic fields and radio waves in your body, which basically, then we have plastics, and every single human being has at least 4 credit cards worth of nanoplastics, and they mess with our hormones in the form of phthalates and phenols. They go in the water, from the water, up into the air, because the water evaporates, then it becomes rain, it comes back down onto the earth, and it goes into the soil. So it's in the food chain, and you can't avoid it. There are ways of extracting metals through chelating agents, which are very powerful, and they are very easy to do, and they're from a crystal, basically. But plastics are more difficult to get out. There are ways, but research needs to be done to help that, because they will accumulate, they're in the brain, they're in the blood, they're in the muscles, and they accumulate mostly in the main organs of the kidneys, the filtering organs, the liver and your spleen. Then we've got, and also in the lungs. Then we've got social media, and that's taking our attention away very rapidly, constantly. So all of these 5 are contributing to our ability to stay clear, focused, aware, and 30 years ago, the average attention span of an adult human was about 1.5 minutes. 10 years ago, it dropped to about 30 seconds, and today it's around 4 seconds. And the other important thing about that is the attention span of a goldfish is 8 seconds. So humans win the race. We have the lowest attention span of all animals on the planet. Congratulations on Women's Day. Wonderful. So all of this is the result of environmental impact that we have created as a result of not being clear in ourselves, not following natural law, doing things above and beyond in a mode of operating and in a manner that cannot self-rectify. Making some sense? And then we're contributing also to climate change and so forth. I don't want to go down that road at the moment. So let's go to the next one, please. So today's event is part of a global campaign to bring awareness of the limitations and solutions for the current situation in economy that can be solved through coherent action of descendants from motherland India. Why? Because of what I said. Every single Indian has in their genetic memory Vedanta, natural law. What means spirit when you use the word? Because people are using anything that is metaphysical, because science today has unfortunately limited our capacity to understand anything that we can't see and touch. So fundamentally, the human brain, because I'm a cognitive scientist, I'm a neuroscientist, I'm a clinical psychologist, and work with medicine for 4 decades now, integrated medicine. And I work with people in terms of how our mind works. It's very important to understand. And fundamentally, we have 2 big categories. One is the things we can see and touch, and that are physical and tangible, and they're material. So that's the physical realm. And then there are things we cannot see and touch. They are invisible, and they're not material. So a lot of people think anything that's not physical is spiritual. But I can tell you it's not. And you've got books that will tell you the difference. Yes. We can go back to the Rashmi theory, which is one of the theories in Rig Veda, that tells us about how everything manifests from a particular form of Prakriti. What does it mean? It's called, Rashmi means wave theory. So that which is called quantum theory, based on how a particle, in this case, I should say, light behaves either as a wave or a particle, was founded around 6,000 years ago by certain individuals who, let's say they downloaded, they had the right code or password and were able to download this information and wrote it down. The only difficulty or mistake there was not made available to the common person. The caste system is creating a separation, a hierarchy of a sort. So here is an opportunity to step out of that past hierarchy and make not only information, but opportunities available to everyone, and act from a foundation. So I'm saying here, during our summit in May or June, we're not sure when, leading practitioners and influencers in the field that they work in will be presented with their work and offered an NRI Global Award for achievements in their respective field. So we invite you to join us. And that's what I was discussing with my colleague and young brother Deepak. So there are many Indians who are doing very good work, who would like very much to collaborate with Motherland India. But we need to create a bridge, a platform, a mechanism, and opportunities for them to feel, A, confident enough to do so from a legal and a I would call it a mode of operating perspective, because the modes of operating here are very different to the West, which is where a lot of these wealthy NRIs live. US, Europe, Canada, and Australia. South Africa as well. And Asia, of course. Actually, Singapore is led by an Indian person.
Many of these Seychelles, even Seychelles.
Seychelles, many Indians everywhere around the world. So my idea was, India has at its foundation such, I won't say rich, I would say brilliant cultural, philosophic, and universal principle foundation. Why don't we use it in a positive, constructive, and effective but integrative manner?
Yeah.
Now, natural law, how does it work in daily life? people say to me, what is your integrated medicine based on? Because the idea of the word integrated medicine, there are more than 70 organizations. Actually, practically doesn't exist in the UK, and I'm based there. But in America, there's many organizations. But their idea is functional medicine, or something that's actually holistic. And integrated medicine is anything that will actually integrate allopathy together with complementary alternative and traditional medicine. And none of them do. Allopathy is separate. And as long as allopathy is not part of it, it's not an integrated medical system. Would you agree, Dr. Sir?
Yeah.
So, what I did was using a platform based on devices that produce light, sound, electricity, magnetic fields, Tesla plasma, or radio waves. They're the 6 forms of energy that occur naturally on planet Earth. And they bypass the digestive tract and go straight to your cells and work with the outer membrane, they work with mitochondria, and they literally also work with activating the chromosomes and the genes. So they're very effective. And I have demonstrated it on a number of occasions to Dr. Sir, and we can actually do that for you on another occasion without any problem if anyone has interest. And Deepak, Malika, they've all come to my clinic in London and experienced what it is that we're doing regarding the devices. Now, integrative therefore means based on a science, because allopathy is not based on quantum physics, is it? It's based on a very simple, visual, tangible, mechanistic Newtonian science. I need to be able to see it, I need to be able to touch it, I need to be able to measure it, I need to be able to repeat it, and I need to quantify it. Is that correct, sir?
I need to hear also.
Yes, and I need to hear, see and hear. Now with quantum, there's a lot we can't see and hear, but we know somehow, because we use other senses, and I give you a simple example. Would you agree that most people would prefer to trust what they can see and touch over what they cannot see and touch?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
I can see and touch it.
Yes.
In my 3D mind,
Yes.
it's there.
Yes.
And it represents something. Okay. So what do we use to see and touch, typically? Our senses of seeing, our eyes, and touching, fingertips in particular. They are directly related through the nervous system to your thoughts. You see something, you have a thought. You touch something, you have a feeling. Yeah. It feels hot, cold, rough, smooth, whatever. Correct?
We are
Now-
missing smell and taste.
Yes, but
The 5 traditional senses of
100%. But we don't typically go around smelling things. Yeah, typically. And neither do we spend too much attention on the hearing. Because today in particular, we have diminished or decreased those senses. When we're young, they're there and they're very strong and powerful. So what I'm saying is, we basically are looking at thoughts and feelings being those parts of our functioning, cognitive functioning, to validate something that we cannot see and touch. Can we see our thoughts and feelings?
No.
No. See, that was quick. It was instant. So we're using something we cannot see and touch to validate what we can see and touch. This is called a cognitive bias, and when you utilize it on a daily basis, it becomes a cognitive dissonance. So what I'm saying is, humans are in dissonance with themselves, which sets up a dispute between head, feeling, this is thinking, feeling, and your gut, which we think is only something that we feed when we're hungry. Now, only in the last 10 years has it been made a big deal. Chinese medicine knows about this, Vedanta knows about this, how critical the gut is. Because, yes, we have millions of neurons down here, not billions, but we also have trillions of other organisms that live together with us. So when we eat foods that are feeding the wrong organisms, we get unwell. So at least 90% of disorders, probably 99%, but I say at least 90%, start from here. Because it controls our immune system, and it controls all of the signals that go to metabolic functions, and then our focus, attention, and awareness. Because when you have problems down here, you also get brain fog. And you have also sending a signal, the the brain fog, goes from the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis to the kidneys, saying, watch out, there's a potential danger because you can't focus. So you are in adrenal overdrive. So you go to sleep, especially when you're living in an urban context, and you don't get regenerative sleep. So all of this is a cycle that we're in as a result of the unnatural environments that we've created for ourselves. Does that make some sense?
Yes.
But why am I telling all of this? A, it's relevant to our health. B, it's 100% the foundation of economics. Because laws of living, it should not be laws of struggling based on survival, where we're fighting every single day and using our precious thinking to worry about where is the next money coming from to pay my bills or my mortgage or my children's fees for school or whatever else you are being taxed with or pressured. Does that make some sense?
So, sir, you are saying life is a game to be played, not a struggle.
No, life is not a game to be played.
It's a game to play.
It is
Can be
something
played like that.
to be danced with, if you understand it. I do see that NRIs are a national resource in that they are satellites. And if we can get them to be responsible for what it is that they have inherited and then utilize it, because they've got very powerful connections. They do very well. In America alone, there's somewhere between 4 and 5 million NRIs, and many of them are in very key positions. So what I'm saying is use what is here in India because of everything that I've been speaking about, which is fact. It's not an opinion. It has had a very ancient written history. They have brilliance in many fields, but there is, from my perspective, if I may respond, the big difference between India and ancient Greece and even modern Greece is we did not have a caste system or a class system. If you were a citizen, it's not that you had rights, it was your responsibility to take responsibility for every single thought, feeling, word and action that emitted from you. You could never point the finger to another person, anyone subordinate or above you, or even God. That is the Greek way of thinking. Especially my people from the Black Sea. We're Ionians. We don't come from Greece. We're around the Black Sea for 3,000 years. We're not Athenian intellectuals. We're very practical people. We are cultural ambassadors. We are warriors, spiritual warriors. We came to India and saw these monks who had nothing. They were Indian Hindu monks and Buddhist monks. And they looked at us and we had weapons and we were the greatest warriors in the world. Not because we were like Viking berserkers, but because we learned to connect, first and foremost, our mind to our heart and to our center of gravity, which means practicality. So take responsibility for the fact that you're in a three-dimensional body. You can sit and talk about the cosmos all you like, but at the end of the day, what are you doing with it? Because philosophy and potential is only as good as the practice you put it into. And that's my message to the NRIs. Pull your head out of wherever it is and start doing something and use where India is. And India does have problems with the caste system, class system, etc. All of this needs reform. That's my point. And learn from those who are outside, bring back into India something that will make it more efficient, more effective, and more fair, and transparent, and accountable. Without the accountability, we get nowhere. You can't point the finger. And that's where I'm coming from.
Before we go,